majority electoral system, there are different ways of how majority electoral systems work. The most common one is simple majority voting, SMV, sometimes called, basically the Westminster style system. It's used in the UK, it's used in Ireland, it's used in a handful of other countries. Basically, it's very simple. You have three people in an electoral district, person A, person B, and person C. Person A gets 40%, person B gets 30%, person C also gets 30%, person A is elected. Person A becomes the MP for that electoral district, despite the fact that 60% of the people in that district haven't voted for person A. But person A got a majority, simple majority, person A becomes the member of parliament for that area. That is what we call a single majority voting, SMV. There are other majority systems, so for example alternative voting, where you can rank your candidates and then candidates need to get above 50%. So you always get rid of the candidate with the lowest number of votes, then reorder the priorities, and whoever reaches 50% first wins. That system, for example, exists in Australia. It's a bit fairer because it makes sure you at least get 50% of the vote, but it still is basically majority means winner takes it all. And the question is, where do we put the winning margin? Do we say you have a simple majority, or do we assume they should at least get 50%? In contrast to this, proportional representation deals exactly with the problem that majority systems have, namely winner takes it all. This idea that there can be a lot of votes that are wasted, right? So if you take back our example of person A, person B, and person C, potentially 60% of votes are wasted here. That sounds quite undemocratic if you think about it. So in a proportional system, your electoral districts get bigger, and rather than voting for individual people, you vote for a number of people. So let's assume our electoral district has 10 MPs. You have party A, so instead of voting for people, you vote for parties, for lists of parties. Party A gets 40%, party B gets 30%, party C gets also 30%. In this case, party A would send 4 MPs, party B and party C would send 3 MPs. In other words, the votes for party B and party C would not be wasted. There would be a proportional representation. What is the big benefit of that? The big benefit of that is always that A, many people say it's more democratic because you have fewer votes which are wasted. B, it's good for minorities because there are smaller groups who just happen to have no territory in no area a majority, so they will permanently be excluded. Right? If you're only about 30% of the population in an electoral district, you will always be excluded. You will never have a chance to get elected. And the other advantage it has, it also, some people say it creates kind of a more democratic bond because different parties have to care for the same area and have to worry about the same area, which in a majority system can be problematic because a lot of majority regions tend to be dominated by one party, and it doesn't really matter whom the party puts up. They will always win that area. Problem with proportional representation is, of course, the direct link between the MP and the area is not there, right? That link is more direct in a majority system because the people vote for a person, that person, whoever gets the majority, is elected, and that's often seen as a more direct connection to your constituency, and you represent the people in a constituency strongly. This is why we see more and more countries using mixed systems. They use mixed systems between proportional and majoritarian system. Of course, a classic case in this is Germany, West Germany after the Second World War, now United Germany, which literally uses a 50-50% system. So it splits the country up in 250 odd electoral systems, where you elect 250 odd MPs in constituencies, and the other 250 something MPs are elected on party lists based, by the way, on the federal structure of the country, based on Länder proportional representation districts. Many people say that's the most democratic system because it has the advantages of both systems. You don't waste many votes, but you also use the advantages that both systems offer while minimizing the disadvantages. Not all countries use the 50-50 proportion. Some countries use 70-30, Italy, for example. Other countries use other proportions. But that's kind of the international trend, is to say, let's not use one or the other, but let's think about a model where we combine the two. Of course, the one big problem with combining the two is you need informed citizens. Citizens need to understand, what am I voting for here? So citizens in Germany and Italy, they have 2 votes, one for the candidate, one for the party list, and they need to understand, what is it I'm voting here for? But I think one mistake people often make is they assume people are idiots. And I don't think people are particularly stupid. People do understand this. And there's often this fear, particularly with proportional representation, people won't understand this and it's quite complicated. Because, simple majority voting is quite easy to understand. Indeed, it's in the name, simple, right? I think people are often not as politically alienated or uneducated as we think. And mixed systems have worked in a number of young democracies, and they tend to function quite well. And they tend to be good for minorities, both ethnic minorities, but also political minorities. Specific groups who would never have a majority, but who still should have a voice in the whole process. And they encourage cooperation. That's the other thing. They bring political parties together from across the spectrum. And by doing so, encourage kind of democratic consensus building, which is also good. If we think of Tunisia, for example, proportional representation there makes sure we have a governing coalition that includes the Muslim Brothers on the one side and the Communist Party on the other, right? And forces them to work together, which means you get, very consensual democratic decisions. And that, especially in young democracies and transitional countries, tends to be very important as well.